The Polymega is set to start shipping to people who first ordered a couple years ago in the coming days, and will continue to ship throughout the rest of the year into next to fill all the pre-purchases. With many people patiently waiting for the system, it does seem like Polymega's got a lot on their plate. They just released one final firmware update for pre-launch, so that is ready to go. Today during this video, I want to kind of take a look at this update, but more so talk about my thoughts on this system. So I've been fairly critical over the years of the Polymega, but the biggest reason I had lost interest was the price initially. It has increased in price over time, especially after the initial pre-order push, but like anything, price can be something we argue about all day long, as what one thing costs can make it prohibitive to some, or potential customers cannot see the value they would get from the product as being worth the price. Any product at any price point will have people saying it's too expensive. That's just the way it is. Early on, there were many things we could be critical of: the flip-flopping on the hybrid FPGA implementation, the numerous delays, lack of public communication, and much more, but I figure that stuff is all in the past, and it's just time to focus on what this product really is and who it's for, as it will be in people's hands in just, a few short days, weeks, whatever. It's being shipped. That's what they say, right? So what is the Polymega and who is it for? Essentially, it's a console that plays retro games. Now, there are plenty of options out there for that category, but what sets this device apart is that it's made to play your actual games that you own. The base unit plays just disc-based games out of the box, besides any built-in bonus games anyway. It plays Neo Geo CD, Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, Sega CD, and TurboGrafx CD, plus every region version of those games and consoles. It does all this very well from my experience. I've tested tons of CD-based games and haven't seen much to complain about when it comes to performance, visuals, or latency. The way the Polymega does this is by ripping your game when inserted to internal memory and emulating it via software. The biggest thing I see is people saying that this is just an emulator box and a RetroPie or other devices can do this just the same. And while this can be partially true, emulation on a Raspberry Pi anyway doesn't do Sega Saturn anywhere near as good as the Polymega. I do have to say, when you get the crazy fanboys of one option saying how another is crap and whatnot, you really shouldn't take that too seriously. Look at it this way: no matter how you're playing retro games, be it software emulation, FPGA implementation, or on clone consoles, if you're not playing the game on the original hardware with original media, you're just emulating the game or simulating it in some form or fashion. But who the fuck cares? None of that matters. If you enjoy playing your games via any means, anything anyone has to say against it is pointless. Let them be their own little elitists. They can cheerlead for themselves, right? Now, it is good to know about options, and if that's what someone's intentions are, just informing you of an option that's available, that's fine. But don't feel shamed because of what some asshat says. There are a lot of people out there who will, put you down depending on the way you play your games, and I just think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. So don't be bothered by none of that. Don't be bothered by none of that. Now, obviously, the Polymega is not for everyone, and I do have a hard time recommending it to anyone but someone with a large physical library of games, especially disc-based games. Those are the people I figure will get the most out of this device. A simple plug-and-play system that plays all your games without any fuss. One thing I've heard people say is this device is used to back up your games. This is one way to prolong the longevity of your games, back them up, preserve them type of thing. And I do not feel this is exactly true. And it's something you need to keep in mind as well if this is a product that interests you. Yes, you can install all of your games to internal storage. They give you a measly 32 gigabytes to work with, which won't be much for games off of disk after a while, but you can add extra storage via USB drive, micro SD card, or an M2 SSD drive, so you have those options. But when I think backing up my games, I think being able to take that file and use it anywhere I want. With the Polymega, that's simply not the case, as it does create some kind of proprietary file that's tied to their database. You also can't take your own ROMs or ISOs and drop those files on the drive or onto the system, as the Polymega just won't recognize them. Now, maybe once more people have these in their hands, someone will find a way to circumvent all this, but in the meantime, I do say do not buy a Polymega hoping to add ROMs without the physical media. This is something for someone with a large collection that gets some value out of it, in my opinion. I mean, that's kind of how it's marketed anyway. Now, I don't own a ton of actual discs, so I did wind up burning a shit ton of games to disk in order to install them. Yeah, that works just fine. Haven't found much in the way of issues using image burn with a cheap $10 external burner I bought off of Amazon when I wanted to, test and play games on the Polymega. Not the most optimal way to do it, but I didn't mind as blank discs in the burner were pretty damn cheap. I did install a lot of legit, CDs and discs as well. Didn't have too much of an issue there. Everything pretty much loaded up to the memory that I had set up for this thing and worked pretty good. Now, ultimately, I do think the Polymega has its appeal, but it's a very specific crowd of retro gamer, just like I've already said, and I think that's fine. I do find it interesting. I've spoken to many Polymega fans and people just not interested in the thing, and it's been a hell of a lot more peaceful versus other gaming systems that aren't even out yet, or that have faced some similar, issues and concerns with delays and all that kind of stuff. Maybe it's because Polymega knows who their market is and doesn't have a face of the company to pretend to be friends with easily excited and impressionable YouTubers to cause weird little pockets of cults and nuts. Hell, gotta be thankful for something anyway. Polymega's for you or not for you, at least I haven't seen too much. There's a few outliers. There's a couple of them who will defend the company at all costs. But overall, it's not crazy like some systems out there. Holy crap. It's a freaking crazy world. Retro gaming freaks, man. But it's all in fun. Overall, my experience with the Polymega has been pretty positive. I love the UI and how it just works. I was lucky enough to receive one for, review a long while back, and I recognize who this is for and why it can be successful with that in mind. I'm curious to see the other features they eventually add, like the online shop. If I had to purchase one knowing what I know now anyway, I most likely would pass unless the price was between the $200 to $250 price point for the base unit and probably no more than $50 per module for, the other consoles that you could add to it. But that's where I set value I'd get out of it per dollar spent. For you, the heftier price tag may be okay and you can justify it, and that's fine. I think it's a solid device. It delivers on what they promised after the initial confusions anyway, and that's fine. There are people out there who are really looking forward to this thing. I hope the best for them. I hope you absolutely love this device. From my time testing it and playing around with it, I've really enjoyed it. There are some things I wish they would do a little differently, and I have showcased, a little bit of the UI, some of the firmware update changes throughout this video. I didn't really speak on them because I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts and just have the visuals up on screen. But I do feel certain things would be nice to be added, like when you have a micro SD card, an M2 drive, USB drive, whatever. If you have additional drives attached to this device, I wish there was like a file explorer where you could look at all that stuff and move them around. Say you accidentally installed a bunch of games to your micro SD card instead of the M2 drive, and you wanted to just easily move them over. I would like to have that as an option. I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal, but I would like to be able to see what's on each particular drive and be able to move things around if needed. But overall, so far, with just playing disc-based games, it's been a pretty positive experience. So let me know what you think down below about the Polymega. Appreciate you guys watching, and with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom. Bye.